I have one question, Panthers Nation. Who should be responsible for this entire debacle of a season? Let's go. Welcome back, Panthers fans, to the most disappointing team in the NFL. I sit here this morning and I'm like, how much effort do I even want to put into recapping this? Don't even know where to start. Guess I'll start with my notes. I mean, Division II undrafted rookie quarterback, number 1 overall pick. Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears win the game 16-13 in a game that the Panthers dominated a little bit in the first half. Well, dominated's a strong word for this team. Played well enough to win, but you knew at some point things were either going to implode or we would give up the score, or the Bears would go up, which they did, and we would lose this game. That's how it's happened all season, minus the Texans game when we have the comeback. But we knew leading into this was the state of this team. This is who we are. You can pride yourself on a solid defense, a defense that's now giving up or 8th in the league in yards allowed per game. I think 14th in points per play, or average yards per play, I should say. Excuse me. It's the offense, man, and it's across the board. It's the play calling, the scheme, our inability to run the ball continues to haunt us. Our inability to make a big play to get guys open. Our lack of interior blocking across the offensive line. Primarily, well, I say across the entire line, but the interior offensive line is just a nightmare. I mean, I think I could get through there. This was a Bears team that had 10 sacks on the year. They came into the game, got 3 sacks against us. Some of those can be attributed to the pressure, the actual pressure they got there. Some of them can be attributed to Bryce Young not getting the ball out. But where's he going to get the ball out? Where's he going to throw it? He does have a tendency to hold on to the ball. He looks a little uncomfortable, still uncomfortable back there. Here we are in week 10. And as a fan, you just wonder, like, where do you go next? And I saw a lot of people, myself included, like, who gets fired? Someone has to be let go. And I don't think it's on the coaching side just yet. But Scott Fitterer, his time has to be up. How can you continue to trot this product on the field? We saw David Tepper after the game, or right at the end of the game, they showed a snapshot of him in the press box, and I joked that, the frustration that he had, it was like, I know people can't stand him, a lot of fans can't stand him, but I do believe he wants to win. I don't think he knows how to get there or what to do to win. But there's no doubt in my mind he wants to put together a good football team, I guess. I mean, who knows? I'm looking way ahead, but man, next Sunday at Bank of America Stadium, not this upcoming, but when the Cowboys come into town, if you thought the 49ers taking over the stadium was bad, just wait until the Cowboys come into town, because that's going to be Jerry's world. Home away from home for the Cowboys. It is what it is, man. First half, I did take some notes. The first 2 quarters, and I got sidetracked in the third and fourth quarter. Not sidetracked, but I was tweeting more, and I just had this feeling like we were going to lose anyways. So first quarter, there were some key plays very early in the game. Man, this one was tough. It was 2nd and 7 from our own 48. Bryce overthrows Terrace Marshall. And if you go back and look at the replay, yes, there was pressure there. but he overshoots him. If he hits him in stride, at a minimum, that's 20 yards, 25 yards. It's a big play. Keeps the drive going because we end up not converting on that drive. But to follow that up, we have Hecker punting the ball. We down it at the 1 yard line. Force, or stop them. Make the Bears punt. Amir Smith-Marset, the one shining moment, the only touchdown we scored. Punt return touchdown. And no flag. If you were watching the broadcast live, you saw the flag pop up on Prime and you're like, oh my gosh, was this a flag? So you're trying not to celebrate and you're like, oh wait, it's a touchdown. There isn't a flag. I don't know what happened there, but that was like the fact that he only got in one play. And I know the play he got in, there was a pass interference call on him. And that whole entire drive was like the drive that we started in really prime field position and then back all the way up to 1st and 30. But he's got to get the ball. He's shown and has the ability to make a play. Our one big play, which I have down here, and I guess I'll get to it. So DiCaprio Boodle locked down DJ Moore all night. People talked about like this was going to be the DJ Moore revenge game. Kept him in check. But Boodle and Jackson. But Boodle made a really good play on a double move by Moore and defended the ball really well, which is a crucial moment. Held them to a field goal. Then we had, it looks like it's Strachan is the name, Mike Strachan, but it's actually Strong is how they were pronouncing it on the broadcast. He had tied to the Colts with Frank Wright. Practice squad guy gets caught up and makes the biggest reception of the year. One of the biggest. That's how this game went. All right. That was your first quarter. So like a lot of positives. I took a few more notes in the second quarter. It was a 3rd and 11 from our own 20 or at our 20. And yeah, Bryce throws low and short to Mingo. We saw this all night. Bryce checked down Young. He's the king of the checkdowns. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's what he's turned into. I don't know if I can't, tell you why he's checking it down. I don't know what our scheme is with the checkdowns, but I know that people aren't getting open. I know there's pressure, but it feels like we are not even taking shots. I joked that when you're watching the broadcast and, the camera's right there between showing you the 1st and 10, I was like, the camera doesn't even need to move. Like, you don't even have to move the camera. We're going to be right there. We're either going to run the ball in this space or make a throw for 2 or 3 yards in the air. That's the state of the Carolina Panthers offense. Did get a field goal out of that drive. Another positive was Eddie Pinheiro. Oh, man. What was funny was, I believe it was when the Bears we were on defense and there was busted coverage and the Bears were booing because Tyson missed throw. He didn't see it. I thought something like there was like a defensive penalty. It was just funny to watch live. Did have Amir drop a punt, but he was able to field that. Bryce getting sacked, that was kind of a theme. Put them in really good field position. I mean, that was when we were backed up on like the 9 or 10 yard line. He gets sacked. We're all the way down to the 3 yard line. It was tough. I mean, I don't really know what to say about this team. And it's a team, at least the coaching staff is pegged as one of the best. It's not coming out. It's not coming out on the field. I don't know what to tell you. If you listen to Frank in the presser, it will blow your mind. I've got to go back. It's important that I actually tell you what he said. It's one of those where, okay, Reich said that he's confident that they have the players and the staff to win games. Keith Blitzen asked how he's confident when the record reflects something different. He said it's because the games have been close. Sure, the games have been close. Are you sure the games have been close? Because when I watched on TV, the games are not close. the games are blowouts that we make look a little bit closer than the end. I will admit, this game against the Bears and the game against the Texans, those were the closest games. The two closest games. Maybe you throw in the Minnesota Vikings game. But to think that the games themselves, when you look at Miami, you look at Detroit, you look at the Colts, these have not been close games. Even the Saints, like the teams have pulled away. It's terrible, man. Terrible football team. There are even people, and I may even throw my hat into the ring with this, that are like, I miss Matt Rule. People miss Matt Rule. He may have been bad, and he may not have been a good coach, but he won a little bit. He won 5 games his first year. 5 games. Frank Reich, a experienced NFL head coach, offensive-minded head coach that had to come here, had to be the coach that we hired to lead this team. And, you know, I talk about the Steve Wilkes comparison. I think it was Sheena Quick brought up a really good point too, that Frank Reich had the reason likely that Frank Reich was hired is he had months and months to prepare for any interviews that he was going to do. He had such a lead on all these other candidates that he could put together this master plan, and I'm sure that's what he did. He came in with all this laid out. This is how it's going to work. This is how we're going to do this. We're going to get this quarterback or a quarterback. I'm going to bring in these guys around me. And this is how we're going to win ball games. And that just hasn't happened. But you throw in, like, thinking about Steve Wilkes. Steve Wilkes is just coming at the end of the season, turning right around and interviewing, and no time to truly, like, sit there and prepare. And I'm sure he was trying to prepare a little bit during the season, but as the interim head coach, he's busy trying to get the team ready to win, and they were winning. There are a lot of people trying to compare this situation to Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Matt Stafford, a few other quarterbacks taking number 1 overall, throwing Jared Goff. It's not the same. It's not the same at all, because when you talk about Burrow, when you talk about Trevor Lawrence, and you talk about Matthew Stafford, number 1 overall quarterbacks that were taken, even throwing Cam Newton, those situations were teams that were in that spot because they were the worst team in the league. So there were not a lot of expectations for those quarterbacks. The Carolina Panthers were the 9th worst team last year and won 7 games. They traded up to that number 1 overall pick, and nobody, not a single person, would have predicted that we would have been the worst team in football this year based off of last year's results. And I know that things don't carry over, but that's the difference. That's the difference between last year or comparing those situations. We knew that Burrow was going into a bad situation. We knew that Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer was going into the worst of worst situations. When you try to compare, that's why people look at CJ Stroud and what he's doing with the team that they had, because they were the 2nd worst team last year, and they are winning games, and they are competitive, and he does look good. I said it, way back when, and I tweeted a few of the tweets out last week, that this whole season, this was going to happen. We were going to have the comparisons. Whether we took Bryce, whether we took CJ, Will, like I said, there would be this comparison game. I didn't think it would happen like this and be against us. I thought, oh yeah, we'd be able to sit back here and say, look at us. We got our guy. We're winning games. We're competing in the division. And that's not the case. It's a very tough time being a Panthers fan and watching this. Like, I feel bad. I should shout out all the folks in England. I got some of the folks that tune into the show in England, so thank you, folks that tune into or from Germany. So thank you all to everyone that tunes in internationally. I think Canada even. But for y'all, man, for those overseas that had to stay up, I joked that I stayed up until 11 o'clock to watch this garbage, and they were like, I stayed up till 5 a.m. my time. They're watching these games in the middle of the night to watch us lose. Diehard fans that are invested in this team and this product. And I just say, sorry, man. I sorry to everyone for what this is. My problem with this whole thing is I don't know where you go. I don't know. I don't know what the next step is. If it would be easier if we had the picks, and we don't. I'm not going to harp on that. I'm fine. But the thing about it is, like, we feel so far off. Defense is looking okay. We know the injuries are there, but it's like offensively, you remember the year that Matt Rule was here and we drafted all defense? It feels like we're going to need one of those years where we draft all offense. Completely, just every single draft pick is an offensive player. That's what it feels like. Ugh. I mean, going back, you compare. I mean, Bryce didn't play great. He did make some iffy throws, some throws that possibly could have been interceptions, but our rushing attack is terrible. We ended up with 43 total yards. Chuba Hubbard was your leading rusher, 9 carries for 23 yards. Miles Sanders, 2 for -5. 16 total rushes, 2.7 yards per carry. On the opposite side, a lot of talk came into this game about DJ Moore, but Foreman was only here a year, so it's hard to say it was his revenge game, but it kind of was. 21 carries for 80 yards and 1 touchdown. We held him in check as much as we could, but they mustered 133 total rushing yards. We continue to be one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. Quarterback comparison, it was actually fairly even, minus sacks. So 21 of 38 for Bryce, 185 yards, sacked 3 times, man. He's continues to get sacked. He will be sacked more times than Cam Newton was his rookie year. You can already chart that. Like, we are getting very close. On the other side, Tyson was 20 of 33, 162 yards, no sacks. That's the other thing. No pressure at all on the defensive side of the ball with everything there. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. Receiving wise, Adam Thielen, 6 catches for 42 yards. Mingo had 3 for 20. DJ Moore on their side, 5 for 58. And Cole Kmet, 5 for 45. A whole lot of punting going on. Talked about the punt return. It's just not our day. This was a bad defense, a bad passing defense in the Chicago Bears that we couldn't slow down. 295 yards to 213 total yards. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Average starting field position for the Panthers, our own 23. Theirs was their own 28. I'm just breezing through some of the stats. There wasn't really anything else that I did want to look at. Big plays. Our biggest play was the 45-yard pass. Outside of that, we had a 14-yard pass. So only one play over 20 yards. We held them in check, though. I mean, they had one pass for 21 yards and 2 more for 16 yards. Man, where do you go? Like, as a fan, it's a very tough spot to be in to cheer for this team or try to cheer for this team each week. We look across the aisle at Charlotte FC that just fired their coach. I can't tell you the right move of whether we should fire Reich or not, but the pressure's going to heat up. There's no doubt that some people say, well, if Tepper goes out here and fires Reich or whoever, Fitterer, he could put us in a situation where coaches don't want to be here. I mean, we did see in the offseason several key coaches that turned down job interviews that were initially interested and then said, "Nah, I'm good." That tells you a lot about this team, this franchise, and what people think of us. We're just digging ourselves deeper. The other thing with just the lack of success this year is, how are you going to convince anyone? How are you going to convince any decent free agent to come to Carolina? Like, what's your sales pitch outside of paying them money? And then in that case, you're probably going to overpay for whoever you bring in. Like, what is your, hey, you should come here and play for us. Look at what we have. We are very close to solidifying a losing record at 1-8. We only need one more loss, and sounds like next week that's going to happen, which we'll preview the Cowboys coming up soon. Anyways, man, there's not much else I can say about this. I will say the one thing that I'm trying to do is bridge between a fan, because I am a diehard Panthers fan, and a podcast host that wants to bring insights and also take out my fandom, because we're a bad football team and it's tough to do that. I will say we are going to be okay with Bryce. I do think even with all the struggles that this is just a year where everything that could and will go wrong is going to go wrong. It will build a lot of adversity. And I should say, as we close this out, the decision at the end of the game, 13-16, Bryce misses a throw on third down, unable to connect. You would assume in that case, just based the way things played out, that if we connect on that throw, and it is still fourth down, that Eddie has a 54-yard field goal attempt, which based on the kick that he had, he would have made. But for me personally, I was not a fan of us making that 59-yard kick at Soldier Field in very cold temperatures when Eddie is never connected beyond 56, 57 yards. It doesn't make sense for me. And at the end of the game, or in the presser, Reich said, yeah, in the moment it made sense. And of course now you question it because it didn't go through. But walking off the field, or when Eddie was walking off after the miss, Bryce was like, that's on me. That's on me for not being able to convert and get him in a better spot. I don't know that we win that game anyways. If we do make that, it's tough, man. I would have, Reich said based off of percentages that it made sense to kick it, comparing to converting a 4th and 10. Like, okay, yeah, maybe, but not when your kicker can't even connect from that far. And he was like, well, I've seen him connect in practice. Well, this is Chicago, cold temps in prime time. Not a good decision there, in my opinion. I would have loved for us to attempt a pass play or something, man. The other bad thing about this whole situation, too, is like leading into this, and I understand you want to get the right play call, but they burn a timeout on the third down, and now you have 2 timeouts. So if you did turn the ball over like we did, there was a slim chance to get the ball back if you stopped them, and we were stopping them on the run game. It is what it is, man. I don't know. All right, y'all. That's all I got. This is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.